Well, hello, everybody. I am really excited to introduce Christine Sandman Stone to you today. She is an expert in managing in this modern economy that we find ourselves in. Christine, welcome to the program.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, Dean. You're a great way to start the day.
Oh, awesome. Well, I'm excited for it. And I'd like to just jump right into it and understand when we think about the modern economy and we think about managing inside of it, what are some of the dynamics, the changes, the challenges that maybe people are missing out on dealing with that you've been able to help people with?
I love this. My favorite audiences are companies and organizations that realize that they're struggling to deliver results or they're seeing high attrition rates. And they're like, gosh, we've modernized our strategy. Like our strategy used to be this behemoth with Gantt charts and multi-pages in a deck. And now we're doing it, agilely. We're changing our targets. We're hitting what our customers need. We're shifting quickly when the market changes. So we've modernized our strategy. Now it's agile, it's nimble, and we're measuring a lot. Like we've modernized our workforce, right? We used to all be co-located, and now a lot of us have figured out how to leverage global workforces, and folks are distributed. Maybe they're hybrid, but they've become powerful. And no one has looked hard at modernizing managers. And ultimately, managers are the people who deliver results and get the best out of our people. They take the strategy and they prioritize and lead the work that really leads to the outcomes. And I was talking with a group of women the other day, and we realized that we don't think Management 101 classes have been rewritten in the last 40 years. So when I speak, I share things that I've learned. So I have a background in organizational behavior, but I also have 35 years running tech teams inside of Fortune 500 and startup organizations with great success. And those two things have made my talks and my workshops oriented toward practical tactics that people can use right away. And that's what I hear from my audiences, is that they hear something they never heard before and they're going to use it that afternoon or the next day. And that's the highest compliment for the work that I do.
Well, certainly as a speaker, I mean, you hit on a couple of important things there.
Yeah,
Novelty, because it gets people's attention, and
right.
then the applicability, because I can actually do something with it to get better results. Um, you've had firsthand experience, right? You're not just an academic, even though
Correct.
you're trained in it. Um, what do you think are some of the practices that managers continue to be stuck in that have been handed down decade after decade that need to be maybe replaced or reevaluated in this modern economy?
That is a really good question. So an important thing is the book that I wrote on the subject, I collaborated on with a 29-year-old technologist who was leading a team for the first time. So as I would
Mm.
coach her and send her different tools, she would respond back and say, this worked really well, or this didn't, and this is the reason why. I don't know, my team is global, we're in so many different time zones, that mechanism didn't really work well, and we would make adjustments. So I went into this thinking, oh, my audience are new managers. But when I spoke at an event, an executive pulled me aside and said, is there any way you are free on Monday? It's a Thursday. And I said, I will make myself free. What do you need? And they asked me to run a workshop for senior leaders in a division of a massive tech company that had just gone through a 20% layoff. And as I walked into the room, I had a chance to talk with the executive first. And the executive said, look, here's our challenge. We had to do this massive layoff because our results are down, and we need to drive this new culture of accountability. And we've got to figure out a way to give our leaders tools to help. And I walk into this room, and it is people who have been with this company for decades. The age range, I'm guessing, was like 40 to mid 60s of this group, been there a long time, but they have two challenges in front of them. Their companies told them, we have to drive a new culture of accountability to fix this crisis that we're in right now. And we've let a lot of layers go, and we've reorganized everything. So you now have an entirely new group of people reporting to you. And it's not that they're completely new, because they've been with the organization for a long time. So it's not just that you have to pivot, but you have to help all of these leaders beneath you pivot as well. And that day we talked about So, by the way, it was one of my favorite workshops from the last month, especially. We talked about three different things. We talked about one-on-ones and how if they used a pattern of specific questions, they could figure out whether their new team, who on their team, was good at predicting outcomes within about 2 or 3 weeks. So very a rapid way to assess how the person could plan and predict work. We talked about how critical peer relationships are inside of an organization when you're trying to lead like massive initiatives. It's not enough that you figured out how to get your team to deliver. You have to have functional partnerships with other folks across the organization. So we talked about 3 or 4 questions that each of them could start asking peers, how they could strategize about who the peers were that they should reach out to, what their pace should be. And then lastly, we talked about a goal setting methodology that I love that tech companies use all the time. It's called objectives and key results, and it's based on a quarterly plan instead of an annual plan. And we talked about the feasibility for each of them to take the annual plan of the organization, break it down to a quarterly plan that would identify first the objective, which was the business goal, the key result, which is how they were going to manage it, but most importantly, how they take these and they hand them to each manager and they say, I want you to come back to me with a prioritized list of what your team is going to do in order to move the needle on this. So those three things, practical ways to go find and build peer relationships quickly, the mechanism for figuring out who could predict work by using a structured one-on-one, and then that OKR plan. I was getting emails for days afterwards that people said, Christina, I left and I started doing it right away and it's making a difference. So this space is just so much fun to work in. I feel like the pandemic accelerated a lot of changes for businesses. And now we have to play catch up and help managers who are so critical to get where we need to be modern.
That's that's a really important point, right? So over the past 3 years, let's say that we accelerated technology by 5 to 8 years or something like that. But if we haven't accelerated our or adjusted our systems, our structures, and our practices, now we've got this discord. And so we got to get things back into alignment, it sounds like.
We do. And you think about something so simple, right? A new employee comes into the organization. We celebrate that we figured out a way to onboard them virtually. Like we've got a way to send a laptop. We've got a way to get them into HR systems without them coming in to physically sign a form or whatever it is. But the next step is we have to talk to managers about how things that we used to be so casual about. You used to be like, oh, Dean is going to build relationships as he starts here because he'll just start interacting with folks. And that used to happen like in an elevator or at lunch or as you walk down the halls. And we don't have a lot of those mechanisms anymore. So now we do things like we say, hey, Dean, I'm so glad you're here. Instead of me just saying like, hey, reach out if you have any questions, I'm going to say you and I are going to connect on Zoom every day for 15 minutes at the end of the day for your first 2 weeks. I want to make sure that you've got a place to ask questions. I want to be able to check in with you. I also say, hey, Dean, normally we would do one onboarding buddy. This time I'm going to give you 5. And this person is going to help you with this thing. This person's, maybe this person does your job in our team. Maybe this person can explain how our business drives revenue. Maybe this person is someone who's similar to you and they're in a different team. As I go through this person maybe does your technology and critical things for the first 2 weeks. By giving you 5 connections instead of 1, I have increased the chance that you will form a friendship that will be functional to you staying with our company and navigating through those tough first few months. Had I just given you one, especially one that's virtual, I haven't done much to help you really start to build your network, and your network is essential to your success. So simple adjustments like that. Now, how we use technologies, how we use Slack, how we use Zoom, how we set priorities about whether to text, to Slack, to email. These things help our modern employees and make a huge difference.
So it sounds like what used to happen because of proximity and because of more of an accidental outcome,
Right.
we now as managers have to be much more intentional about
Right.
making those experiences happen because they won't happen accidentally.
And It's not because managers don't want to.
Mhm.
It's as simple as, here's 5 questions that you should ask in a one-on-one. Here's 5 questions you ask in the next one-on-one, and this is why, and this is what you're looking for. All of us who've led teams have learned this after we messed up the first couple of times. And then we realized, like, oh, shoot, I need to prepare for that earlier, or following a pattern could really make a difference here. And when we're able to share those tactics of experienced and wise leaders with folks who are trying to make a change or who are new to the role, we can really make a difference in their impact on an organization, in the months that follow their exposure to these new tools.
It's awesome.
Thanks.
Let's rewind for a minute.
Sure.
Expand on your book. Tell us a little bit more about your book and who it's for and some of your
Yep.
lessons going through that journey.
Sure. Okay, so this is the book. It's The Modern Manager Mentor. It's had a really good first few months, Dean. It's been a really busy and productive time. Was a top new release on Amazon. It got a wonderful review from Kirkus Reviews, as well, and it's been very well received, thus far. And I'm excited to see what 2024 brings for it. It is so this is the beauty of having a 29-year-old help you with your project. She said it has to be a paperback because it has to go in my backpack. So I have it with me. If you make it heavy, I won't carry it. She said we have to find a way to flag folks and let them know when they're on a worksheet or when there's a tool inside the book so they can find it quickly. And in fact, the back has an index that identifies each of the 50 tools throughout the book and how you can get to them quickly. So it was a project that was such fun. My collaborator, who is also my 31-year-old now daughter, was deeply insightful. And after we built the first pass of the book together, I then gave it to 5 young managers who were leading teams for the first time. They all used it and came back with feedback. So it's been through some very thorough beta testing and adjustment, and I'm really
Mm.
proud of the outcome.
I love the approach, right? Because if it's going to be practical, it has to be grounded in reality.
Absolutely.
And you've made it really easy to access. I know I'm going to get on and buy my own copy and put it to work too. So that's awesome, and certainly a great journey to go personally through the process, because I would imagine it helped you to even crystallize your theories and messages and give you the confidence in them. But also having a book as a speaker, a trainer, a consultant, whatever a person finds themselves being, is a huge source of validity when it comes to the people that are looking to hire you. Is that what you've found?
Absolutely. So this is my second book. My first book was about, it's called The Parent Track, and the subhead is how to raise good humans and elevate your career. I really have found that to be achievable. And when I would speak, I'd speak to these big audiences, and I'd be speaking about tech strategy or agile transformations or these critical things that we do inside of our space. And I'd always be like 3 or 4 questions in, and somebody would say, like, wait, go back. Like, I don't understand. How did you do that with 4 kids? And so I started like telling people like some secrets that horrify my mom. Like I would tell people in the audience, hey, I put my kids to bed in their school clothes because it's Chicago, it's cold, nobody wants to take their pajamas off in the morning. I had 4 kids under the age of 8. So it was a way for us to get ready faster in the morning. And those things, I was shocked at how audiences reacted and how they wanted more. And I'd get emails from people later saying, wait, like, tell me more about. My husband and I did this thing we called free range feeding, where we just said, eat when you're hungry, and we made sure there was healthy food where they could get to it. And it took so much stress out of dinner preparation because everybody could eat when they were ready to, and then they'd join dinner for conversation if they weren't hungry for food. And little things like that, as I would tell people, they'd respond back and talk about the time they saved, the impact that it made on their family, on their work. And that became a book kind of organically, much as this book came out of me coaching my daughter Madeline. As I was coaching her, I started to collect and refine the tools, and the book kind of wrote itself. So it is, yes, I agree with you. The credibility of being able to say, here's an asset that you can take a look at that helps you understand what I do even more. And here's something you can keep after this talk is done, and you can, obviously I can't cover 50 tools in a talk for an hour and a half. I can hit some highlights that are especially relevant to the organization that I'm speaking to, but then there's an asset for people to use afterwards to keep really building on that and make it additive.
I love it. That's
Thanks.
awesome. And its reach will be beyond what you might even be able to predict. And so
Right.
that's a really cool thing about a high leverage asset like that. So um, tell us, as we kind of begin kind of pulling the pieces together here in your journey, you spent a lot of time in large corporations and startup corporations. And so you have this group, this community, these teams.
Right.
What have you found as you've moved to more of a solo speaker, trainer, etc., coach?
Yep.
How has community been able to be a part of that journey for you? What have you found in that transition?
Right. Boy, I miss a couple things from being part of large organizations. I miss running meetings for thousands of people. I'm really good at it. I miss running strategy for thousands of people. I'm really good at that too. And I am enjoying this period in which I'm doing work that I'm excellent at every single day, which is terrific. And I found remarkable resources inside of NSA Illinois. In fact, I love that you sent questions earlier, and I took notes, because once I started thinking about like what I could do, like what had happened in my experience in NSA, I realized the practical specifics are probably even more helpful to folks than just saying what a wonderful experience has been. So I'm going to tell you about a couple of things that have happened to me in this community that I'm part of and why it's been so important. I met a great speaker. I really admired how she spoke. She was in a competition and I got to go watch her. And I asked her if she would come watch me when I gave a talk. And she gave me really thoughtful advice after the talk, a great debrief about what was working well. She suggested a pacing change that was so helpful when I implemented it for the next time. I met another speaker who was able to walk me through the different NSA national and Illinois events and what she specifically got out of them, what the utility was, and it really helped me game plan what I would be part of. In turn, I've joined the membership experience committee, and I've started to work with a team that's doing new member onboarding. And we've started to take my practical experience with like efficiency and ways to be consistent and try to weave those in. And I've connected speakers that I've met to other opportunities that I've seen. I'm part of a number of executive women and women in tech groups, and I've been able to connect speakers into those spaces where they would have opportunities. So I've found that and I'm going to thrive with 2 new friends, which will be really fun. It's fascinating how bi-directional the organization is, how it's as much about what I've learned from others as I've been able to figure out very quickly how I can reach out and help others as well. And it's been profoundly important to me in this solo journey.
Well, I love the specific examples because it illustrates how important it is for us to maintain connections. If we are transitioning from a team that's around us
Right.
into this kind of cold and solo world, we have to build some sort of connection, whether that's an NSA Illinois or some sort of community. And you highlighted something that's really important, and that is an opportunity to refer other speakers to opportunities, people that we know, like, and trust that are going to do a good job. We want to help our clients contact and connect with those types of people as well, and that's a big part of the speaker community. So awesome stories and great inspiration for anybody that's maybe making that transition from a large organization into more of a solo endeavor on their own. If people want to stay in touch,
Yep.
follow the work that you're doing, learn more about Christine Sandmanstone, where would you send them?
I would send them to christinesandmanstone.com. I would also encourage you to connect with me on LinkedIn. I have a newsletter that includes an element. It's called Ask Christine, and it's where people have asked me tough questions about the workplace, and I give responses. Sometimes they're sassy, they're always brief, to the point and practical. And I would love to stay connected with folks. LinkedIn is probably the best place to keep track of what I've got going on.
Awesome. Be sure to follow Christine on LinkedIn. Christine, thank you so much for sharing your insights for managers in this modern economy, your journey of working in building your own consulting and speaking practice, and being a part of our NSA Illinois community and the contributions that you're making to it. So thank you so much.
Okay, so Dean, I have one more story. If you have
Okay, yeah,
more
let's do it.
You asked a question about the journey as a speaker. And I spoke a lot early in my career, and I could tell that I had some natural talent, but I also wanted to be excellent. And I was in this McDonald's conference with thousands of people on a huge floor, and the CEO came out to speak, and it was Don Thompson. He's a charismatic CEO in years past at McDonald's. And I was standing next to Don's chief of staff, and Don came out and he just energized this room. I think there were 40 or 50,000 people in the room. It was huge. And I leaned over to Don's chief of staff, who's taking a sip of his coffee. And I said, I have never seen a more natural and organic speaker. And he laughed and coffee like came out his nose. And I said, what? And he said, Christine, he practices on average 30 times before he takes the stage. He knows that he's going to walk to the right side of the stage, pause, and then he's going to talk about the history of McDonald's, perhaps the number of elements that were on the menu when we first started, the number of organizations in the system. He's going to pause again. Then he's going to walk to the left side of the stage, and he's going to talk about the number of items on the menu now and how innovation has led us forward and the rapid growth of franchises. Then he's going to walk back to the middle, and he's going to talk about our history and our innovation and how they build strength for the year ahead. He knows every gesticulation. He knows every spot on the stage. He knows every word. And he said, I have seen him get on a stage and the teleprompter like has smoke coming out of it, and he doesn't even need it anymore. And because he's practiced so well, he's able to watch his audience, make adjustments, and it comes across as a conversation between two really smart friends. And that changed everything for me. I started preparing differently and preparing more. And as we work as speakers, the truth is, no matter how good you are at it, that preparation cycle is a game changer from great to excellent. And Don Thompson's just a man that I will admire until my last days.
Well, that's a wonderful story to close us on, and really to encourage us, because I know personally it's the practice side that maybe I don't give enough attention to, and how much more that can give to our audience when we have it really laid out. It feels natural. It helps us to be confident, helps us to be present, and to really, as you said, have a smart conversation with another person. And I think that's our goal as speakers, is not to talk to 100 or 1,000 or 5,000 people. It's to speak to one person, and just happen to be that we're the ones on the stage having that conversation.
Right. Dean, this has been delightful. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. I thank you so much for being a part of this. I look forward to continuing our conversation as we get together on future NSA Illinois events. Thank you so much, Christine.
Perfect. Thanks, Dean.